A24, a name that has become synonymous with groundbreaking cinema. This small indie studio went from a tiny distribution company to a powerhouse in the film industry. Now that they've risen to dominate the big screen, the question of the century remains: how did A24 take over Hollywood? We'll dive into their most influential films, analyze the themes that define their brand, and uncover the creative processes that paid off big time. This is a cinematic breakdown of A24. That's really good.
First, analyze how A24 took over Hollywood. We have to begin by going over their founding and early strategies. A24 began its journey not by making movies, but by buying and distributing finished films. This approach allowed them to select projects that were different from the norm. Some of their early films like Spring Breakers, Under the Skin, and The Bling Ring. And these films, perhaps not always the best, did offer something new and original. This strategy set a foundational building block for A24's brand, which was be different. Their early releases were a breath of fresh air for audience who were sick and tired of the copy-and-paste formulaic routine of blockbusters within movies. By focusing on this idea of originality, A24 began to build this reputation where their films were always going to offer something new, original, and unexpected.
The next distinction of A24 films is how they emphasize young directors. After making a name for themselves with their distributed content, A24 took a major leap and began making their own original films. This next building block in their strategy was originality, and a key feature to achieving this was their willingness to work with first-time, brand-new young directors. This approach meant that A24's films were distinct and different, usually not piggybacking off of what the trendy directors at that time were producing. Films like The Witch, directed by Robert Eggers, or Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster, are prime examples of A24 taking a chance on these first-time directors and it paying off big time. What A24 understood that other big-time studios I don't think quite caught on to yet was that by giving these first-time directors the freedom and flexibility to establish and create whatever vision they saw for the movie, it ensured that their films stood out in a crowded market. Another critical aspect to A24's success is their resourcefulness and quantity. A24 makes their movies on relatively modest budgets compared to larger studios. In 2023, the average budget for an A24 film was around $15 million, which is relatively very small compared to what major studios usually cost. Big studios spend an average of about $100 million on a big budget blockbuster film. This means that for every one blockbuster movie, A24 is able to make 7 of their films. Just statistically, this volume increases A24's chance of at least one of their films hitting big and going culturally viral. The great thing is that even if it doesn't perform as big as a larger studio movie, because the budget was so small, they don't need to make tons in order to make back the money that they spent on the movie. However, this works out in their favor when one of their movies does make it big, and the ROI, which is return on investment, is astronomical compared to what a larger studio would have to make back in order just to turn profit. In 2023, this strategy paid off immensely, with films like Everything Everywhere All at Once and Uncut Gems being massive hits. That year, in 2023, A24 also took home every Big Six category at the Oscars. Winning these Academy Awards cemented their place in Hollywood.
And the Oscar goes to...
Lee Kwan made his big screen debut in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and played Data in The Goonies. He holds a film degree from the USC School of Cinematic Arts and has worked as a stunt coordinator and assistant director.
My mom is 84 years old, and she's at home watching. Mom, I just want an Oscar.
The other thing that separates A24 from other big-time studios is their marketing prowess. They heavily rely and use social media to create buzz around their new and upcoming films. They also have a super distinct style when it comes to making trailers. Unlike the formulaic method of big-time blockbuster movie trailers where there's a popular song and it's going to the beat of the tune, A24's trailers have a very distinct and different type of pacing and rhythm to them. They usually don't give away too much, but also give you just enough information to know what to expect going into the movie. For instance, the trailer for Midsommar is a perfect example of this. It gave away tons of unease and mystery to the theme of the movie without giving away the big plot twist. Another really interesting thing they do is they use what I like to call practical marketing. This basically means that they take marketing into their hands and put it into the real world. So for example, for Ex Machina, one of the marketing tactics that they used was creating a fake Tinder profile for the robot, who is the main character in that film. This not only created buzz around the film, but it also was interesting because it kind of blurred that line between reality and fiction. This not only helped grow their marketing strategy and promotion, obviously, for the movie, but it also was a great film and ended up being successful. The marketing tactic was just one strategy that ended up helping this movie perform as it did. And the last foundational building block of A24 is obviously their branding. The difference between branding and marketing is distinct yet simple. Branding is the company's identity. Marketing is how that company communicates the identity. A24's branding is evident in some of the things they do that are not feature film related. These are things like their merchandise and podcasts. They make movie-specific apparel, usually in collaboration with already well-known and established street name brands, like Supreme. And because of this, it already makes them culturally relevant in an era where social media has already taken over. They're just using these as doorways in order to grow and scale their brand identity. It makes being a fan of A24 exclusive. And when you have exclusivity, then it makes it cool. Therefore, the branding is pretty much the cool kids club of production companies. It's kind of like when Apple first launched back several years ago. When they were first newly introduced to the tech space and industry, they were known as the cool kids on the block. That's what their brand identity was. And because A24 has done such a good job of this, they now have such a strong brand identity where audiences will go to see a movie just based on the fact that it is an A24 film. You don't see this with any other big studios. I don't ever recall a time when someone said, oh, I want to go see this movie because it's a Paramount film. But with A24, it's different. Most people don't go because of the actor or even really sometimes because of the plot within the trailer, but just for the mere fact that the production company attached to it is named A24. And the biggest thing with this is not having a brand that collapses or falls due to the product. We've seen this with films like Moonlight and Ladybug, who have great, compelling stories and are actually well-made films. So it's not like when you get sucked into the brand identity of this company that they don't deliver on their product. That's what makes them so special. The brand identity is strong and the product is even stronger.
how I do. Let go.
It's not
of
often
a
that
prayer
you see
for
an
you.
indie studio overtake larger production companies in Hollywood. And I think it's safe to say that it's no secret what audiences are looking for. They want something new. They want something fresh. They want something different. They want A24.
They say stories like this only happen in the movies. I cannot believe it's happening to me. Dreams are something you have to believe in. I almost gave up on mine. To all of you out there, please keep your dreams alive.
Still, I'll always be there for you. How I do.